Welcome to this week's edition of Your Brand Amplified. I'm Annika Jackson, and I'm here with Louis Schenk. Louis, I know you're on the other side of the world from me. Thank you for getting up early to do the podcast today.
Of course, Annika, it's a pleasure. I'm super excited to be here.
I am super excited, and I love that we have a Kansas connection. That's so random.
Very random.
Yeah, so speaking of Kansas, please tell us a little bit about your story and your background.
Yeah, so it's really strange. Like I've had a couple of calls recently with people from Kansas, and it's, it shows me how small the world is. And so to wind the clock back, like in 2012, I graduated, year 12 in Australia. Then I started to, like most Australians do at that age, go and find myself by traveling overseas. So took what we call a gap year, and spent 4 months over in Europe, went to pretty much everywhere you could imagine. Then, I went to university in Australia in 2013 and in 2014, and just was not enjoying it at all. I wanted to, be a physiotherapist, and the path to get there, like doing all the boring classes, just wasn't for me. And so I had a couple of friends that I grew up playing golf with. I started golf when I was like 14, got pretty good pretty quick, and had some friends who were over in the States playing college golf, and they both said like, man, this is the best life ever. Like we get up, we go to a couple of hours of class, and then we just golf and travel. And I was like, that sounds like me. So found an agent, got me a scholarship to a small town, Hutchinson, Kansas, as you know. And literally spent 2 years there. It was one of the best experiences I did. Not just like, it was like a personal growth experience, like living in cities in Australia, then going to this 30,000 person town in Kansas. I'll never forget the moment. So my dad actually flew over with me because he's like, yeah, I'll come over. I hope you get settled in. We hired a nice Mustang to kind of like make a cool experience. So we get to the airport, get in the black Mustang, top down, and like we're driving from Wichita Airport to the school. And the whole drive, all it is literally like, I don't want to say cornfields to make it too stereotypical, but it was just like
it's okay.
Brown wispy grass fields everywhere. And I was like, am I literally going to be in the middle of nowhere where there's not a single person? Because the whole drive there, you barely see a soul. And anyway, like the school was decent, made a ton of really good friends. And, for me, it's not always about like where you are, it's the people that you're with, right? Absolutely. Like had I been there with terrible people, I might have had a completely different experience. But I've been to places in the world that were much, much nicer on paper, but like the experience I had there was not the same. So I'll always have a sweet spot in my heart for Kansas. So anyway, and then didn't end up finishing my 4 years there, came back to Australia, finished my university degree in Melbourne. And then, I was actually trying to play professional golf for a while, which, I'm just going to say it didn't work out. I kind of made the choice that it wasn't what I wanted to pursue for multiple reasons. And from there, I was running a company in events for these two entrepreneurs. And pretty quickly they saw I was pretty switched on compared to most people that worked for them, and they were starting another business venture. So they thought, well, who better to run our current business than me? So they offered me to run their business. Again, it was very out of my comfort zone. I had no experience doing that, but I was like, let's bring it on. And I learned so much from that, which pretty much set me up to like, I don't want to say like succeed in business, but it set me up to be able to like understand the fundamentals of running a business, so that when I started my own, I could just hit the ground running.
Yeah, that's always, I think, the interesting thing about entrepreneurship, whether you choose to go into it or the path is kind of shown to you, but you learn so much along the way, especially if you're doing it organically and you're like, okay, let me just try this. And then, I need to learn about this. And you learn so much about the ins and the outs. And I think that really helps you adapt and become able to transition to other fields and figure out what next is if you decide that you're done with that part of your journey.
Yeah, exactly. It's
or
like
if it's decided for you.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it's just like you can go to university and study the theory of business like I did, which taught me nothing really, and I've really used very little of that as far as I'm aware. But like when you actually have that real world experience and you're actually in the trenches doing it, like that's when you learn, right? I'm a big proponent of like actually practicing what you preach and doing those things versus just like studying about it and becoming an expert.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And it's really interesting. The last few episodes, I think, of the podcast, a lot of people have been saying the same thing. It's yes, it's great to get book knowledge, but you have to have the practical application and experience. And so you were, you went from golf and travel to events, and then the world shut down
Mhm.
and you pivoted. So how did you decide to do what you did next? And what did you do next?
Yeah, so it wasn't even really like my decision.
Mm.
One of my good friends who like he was in business like before I was, and like we always kept in touch in school. He moved from Australia to Canada, and anyway he got into like sales and then like building remote sales teams, and so he was building a remote sales team for a company in Oregon,
Hmm.
and they needed people like pretty urgently, and he's like, dude, do you want to just do this on the side? It would take like a few hours a day. And I was like, yeah, why not? Like, I'm always open to learning new things. And so, yeah, like that was for a PR company. And that was when I was first, exposed to like the world of PR. And I was like fascinated. I was like, this is incredible. Like, how is this possible? Because you see, you know, yeah, like as just like a normal person, quote unquote, like you see people getting into like big magazines and big cut publications, and like you don't understand the process behind it. Like a lot of them have teams of people, like whether it's in-house or they're hiring a publicist to go out there and build the relationships on their behalf. And unless they're like an Elon Musk who's just like the most newsworthy person on the planet, like you have to know people and you have to be proactive at doing it. And so yeah, I was like, this is incredible. Like, and I'll never forget the moment where like we actually did some like PR stuff for the events company, and like it was such an incredible feeling. Like I'll never forget like the smile I had on my face, like seeing the business published in like an article for the first time, and I was like, this is like game changing. Like everyone, the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the praise that you get from like your family and the friends and people in your audience and network. It's like, I don't know, it's something that like I think is unparalleled. Like the most powerful form of bragging is when other people
Yeah,
brag for you.
exactly.
Right. So it's like, doesn't matter what we say, it's like, what's everyone else saying? So yeah, that was my first real exposure to that. And yeah, I just kind of fell in love with it, and yeah, didn't stay too long with him. I was like, I just want to do my own thing.
Yeah, nice. And today now you have your company Boost Media. You've had over 1,500 clients globally,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
you're having amazing results for yourself and for your clients. And I love the fact that you're so infectious, like that it made you so happy to see that, because I think that's one of the things, as you said, people don't really realize. They want to build something and they just think, okay, I have a website, I have a product, people are just going to find it. And that
Mhm.
just doesn't happen today. It doesn't matter if you're
No.
making a film or the best beauty product in the world or whatever it is. If you don't have that like third party validation that comes from PR, you're not going to get as far.
Mhm. Correct. I think even like a layer deeper than that, it's like first things first. It's like they got to have some kind of product market fit. Like people
Yeah.
have got to want it. Like you could do all the PR and promotion for a bad product, and it still won't sell. But I totally agree. Like you need people to know about it. You need that trust, right? Like there's so many companies and businesses that like let's say that they're generating leads through like Facebook or something, and like they might have like a really really good business and product and service, but like you try to find them online and like you can't find a thing. And I
Mhm.
really believe that if you're not in Google, you don't exist these days. So it's like it's really hard for consumers to trust people when it's like they can't find anything about them, right? They want to educate themselves on a company before they buy. Most people aren't just like trigger happy and just go, yeah, I'll just give you $5,000.
Yeah.
They really want to know that the person that they're working with is reputable, credible, can deliver results. But yeah, really building that trust.
Yeah, absolutely. And so part of it was building trust up for you, because then that showed your clients that you could deliver. So how did you do that? I know thought leadership is a buzzword or a phrase that we use a lot. And I don't know that everybody knows what that means. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that as one of your mechanisms.
Yeah, definitely. So on the topic of thought leadership, one of the biggest things I think anyone can do for thought leadership is to just write about their expertise, right? So I can't tell you how many like articles I wrote and just like contributed to different, media outlets and publications. And like, eventually like I applied to contribute to Entrepreneur a couple of times. And then it wasn't until I really built a big portfolio that I actually got accepted through their leadership program. But yeah, I think being a thought leader all comes down to like being an expert on something and just providing as much value to people as you can on that. So I think, video is a great way. Blogs and articles are a fantastic way too, because, I look at blogs and different articles as like the ultimate long-term marketing tool, because if you write something that your audience is searching for, you're going to get people finding you in 5 years for the same thing, right? I couldn't tell you how many articles sitting in Google where people search, how to get into the media, how to like outposition your competition, and they search these things, and we have articles that rank for that. They click on the article and they read it. It's got a link to our website. They might inquire. So yeah, kind of a side topic in itself. But I think the way that I was able to build my brand quickly was just to write like a ton of content, put that out, slowly start to get into more and more media as well. Then obviously just like social media too, like showing up online, creating good content. I think one of the biggest things that, especially like, I don't want to say like novice business owners, but your image is really, really important. Like I'm not a vain person. I don't believe in like vanity metrics, but like when people see you online, like they form an impression like that. And so if your first impression isn't there, then the chances of like maybe, that person actually wanting to work with you can decrease drastically. So I think just really investing in like your image, like paying a professional photographer a couple $100 at least just to, look really, really professional. It can literally be the difference between doing really well and not. So yeah, just those kind of things were probably the major things I did in terms of, getting my brand off the ground.
Yeah. And when I was going to ask, because you built it up pretty quickly during the pandemic. And so that was your primary mechanism, was making sure that you were writing content that showed that you were the subject matter expertise. People could trust your brand to get the word out about their brands.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And just like spend a lot of time just connecting with people. Like, I think it was from one of Russell Brunson's books. I can't remember. Are you familiar with Russell Brunson? He's the founder of ClickFunnels. Yeah. Anyway, it was just like, it was something along the lines of just connect with like as many, you want to build as many connections and relationships with people as possible. So like, I was just like on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, just like sending like, 100+ messages a day myself, just like, hey, how you doing? Like, great to connect. Like, seeing if there's any way we can exchange value. And like, I think I just like to take like massive action and being like aggressive, not like in the sense of like, hey, give me your money, but like aggressive in terms of my own actions and outflow in terms of like making myself known to people. Because ultimately in business, it's like one quote that I like is like, the more hands you shake, the more money you make. So the more people that know you and obviously like and trust you, the more people that will do business with you. So yeah, I think that was another part of how I was able to kind of get things off the ground really quickly.
Nice. And when you think about, I know personal brands are something that's big for you. So, I mean, do you find yourself working mostly with individuals who are trying to launch their personal brands, with established companies, or kind of all over the spectrum?
Yeah, it's been all over the spectrum, I would say. Like, we started out just like working with our clients for like media placements and things like that. But we've kind of evolved the company to, we're really bullish on like podcasts and short form video content. So we're pretty much like anything. I don't want to say anything because I never want to be that company that's like, yeah, we do like everything. But like we focus on like 3 key areas. So we blueprint what the biggest and best personal brands do, like, Patrick Bet-David, Gary Vee, Jenna Kutcher. Firstly, they have like a huge online presence, media, public relations, anything you can think of. Secondly, they're on a lot of podcasts as well. So that people obviously want to interview them a lot because they're thought leaders. And then lastly is like video content, right? These days, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, like Instagram Reels, there's nothing like it where you can literally have 0 followers, post a video and you can get thousands and thousands of views, right? Which it doesn't happen with photos anymore. So looking at the latest trends and just being like, okay, cool, how can we help our clients with this? Because we have clients from, buyers agents, mortgage brokers, lawyers, coaches, consultants, agency owners, like you name it, we probably work with them. And so a lot of them are at different stages, but the one thing they have in common is that like they've been in business for a while, but they just haven't had any media attention, media exposure. And so I was actually going through like our client lists from like the past year recently with like a marketing agency, and it was like, it's really interesting. A lot of the people that we work with, like I would have said, oh yeah, the average age is probably around like, 30-ish, but like a lot of them are actually like 50 plus. Like they've been in business a long time, but like what people don't realize is that most businesses never get any kind of media attention, right? It unless they're proactive, like we talked about, or unless they know people personally, like it just doesn't fall into their lap. So I think we really want to just work with with businesses, but we want to highlight the founder to build their personal brand to grow their business. So ideal company size is like typically between 1 to 20 people, but not limited to that. We've obviously, we've done things outside of that scope, but that's really our ideal avatar.
Yeah. No, I think that's important. I also like to work with small businesses and entrepreneurs, startups, companies that are on the smaller side that really need that boost up front, because that's going to help their business grow so much faster if they get it. And you're in Australia, but you've lived in the States, you've traveled all over. Do you find that PR works differently? Or do you think it's just now that we have access to all this technology and different platforms that that it's kind of become more of the same across the world? And then also, I'll ask that, and then I'll ask a follow-up question.
Sure. Well, I've only been doing this for like 2.5 years, so I don't have a ton of, I guess, I've done a bit of research. I think the PR landscape is constantly changing, but I think right now it's more connected than ever. Like the US versus Australia, I think Australia is a little bit harder to crack. I think we have like just a smaller pond of like media compared to like the US. Like you guys have 50 states, probably 100 publications and different things per state, so it's a much bigger playing ground. But I think fundamentally on like the principles of PR and like what it can do for a business, it's like, it's location agnostic, it's industry agnostic, it's like recognition. I always kind of try and dive deep into like, what is PR really, what human need is that like fulfilling for people? And it's like, I really believe it's like recognition. People want to feel validated for their work and what they do, and have that recognition from other people. So I think, fundamentally, it doesn't matter where you are, what you do, PR is something that, it will have the same effect anywhere you go.
Yeah, nice. And then are your clients global as well? Or do you find that mostly are getting local clients to start and then it's expanding?
Yeah, so we pretty much just started with US clients because working with that company previously, so I was pretty much just like, I was intentional with like, I learned about his whole business, like how everything operated. I met a few, key contacts of his. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like I know exactly how that works. Like I did with the events company, I ran their business. I didn't run this guy's business, but I saw the systems, how it all worked. So I just basically leveraged that over there and then slowly started to, build into the Australian market. So I would say now I would have to go through and like actually work it out, but I'd say roughly a 50-50 split on Australia and US clients. So there's pros and cons to working with both, but I think, having clients in both areas gives us a bit more, I guess, room. And a lot of the clients as well, they do business internationally. So it's like, when we onboard a client, it's like, are we looking just to kind of, target local media, like national media, or are we going like international? And most of them are like international. So I think it's cool to be able to work with people in the US and Australia. Kind of, it makes me feel like still in the US a little bit, right?
Nice. Do you have any specific case studies or examples of client success that you would like to share with us today?
Yeah, so one of the craziest ones, which like I didn't actually send the survey to, I didn't realize like for a long time how effective we were, but basically, so we worked with, there's an app, it's like a financing app, it's called unhedged.io. And basically we ran like just like a small PR campaign for them, just got them published in like a couple of local and national media. And after that, they had something like 200 waitlist signups for their next thing. And they received like 150 grand in funding from people, from like investors reading their article. And I remember in the feedback from, I would love to pull it up. I was like, is there anything that we could improve upon in the work and stuff that we did? And he's just like, I want more. And he wrote more with like a ton of O's. And I was like, that is so funny. And I love that, people think everything in business has to be so professional, but I love when people are just like, they just themselves and they're just like, I want more. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool one.
That is definitely a very cool one. So I know the old conventional way of doing PR, the agency model, should you say, or maybe even a lot of private practitioners often ask for like a 6 month, minimum contract, retainers, all of that stuff. So, but it sounds like you also work with clients on a smaller basis. So they know that they have a campaign, they need help right now, and you're able to execute that. So you're adding a little more like agility and nimbleness, I guess, to the world of PR.
Correct, exactly. And like one of the biggest problems, especially in Australia, like we've had several clients that have like worked with other companies, spent a lot of money with them and had, it's like a minimum 3 month retainer, minimum 3K a month. Like the saddest story here for me was like this lady, Vina, she's like pretty much a solopreneur, I don't know exactly how much like revenue her business was making, but anyway, she really wanted some PR to like establish her brand and business. And so she worked with this PR company probably 2 years ago now, and they got on a 3 month retainer, 3K minimum per month. And after 3 months, she had nothing, right? No features, no mentions, like literally nothing. And what the company said to her was like, oh, but like, now the journalists and stuff know your name. And like, I'm like, that's just a lot of BS. Like they get pitched 1,000 times a week. They're not going to remember that name. They're just one name. So yeah, it's sad to see when people pay all that money, because some companies, they don't have any kind of, guarantee. It's like for us, if we don't achieve, what we promise in a certain timeline, we'll work with them until we do, right? If it takes us an extra 3 months, it's like, I don't want to deliver nothing to someone who's paid me money. Like same thing, even with my dad's company, they've been in business like nearly 20 years. And it's probably like 7 years ago now, they got a PR company to come on, and like, it sounds like they didn't pay a ton of attention to it, because my dad was like, after 9 months, we're paying them like 5 or 6 grand a month. After 9 months, him and his business partner were like, what's this PR company done? And like, they went through and it's like, they got like one small article somewhere that they'd never heard of, like a small mention somewhere. And so like, they spent 50 grand for all this like strategy and like, whatever. And that's not what people want, right? So our method, our model is like, we give them like, here's what we're going to deliver. This is the time I'm going to do it in. If we don't do it in this time, then we'll keep working you until you do. So it's like, they can feel comfortable that they know what they're getting, versus just like, oh, here's my money, hopefully we can get something.
I think that you're going to have a lot of PR pros quaking in their boots when they hear this, honestly, because I think people have to start in our field, have to start thinking about new ways of doing things, new ways to help clients and customers get the results that they want. And you're doing exactly that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you want to share? Like what's next for your company?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I really kind of the mission for this company is I want to become synonymous with personal branding, and not in the sense of like, I know there's like personal branding experts, and like personal branding is a whole, like it's a crazy world, right? But I want to build like elite personal brands. So like, when you think of people like, like I mentioned before, like Patrick Bet-David, Gary Vee, all these people, like they have teams helping them do that, right? They're not just doing it alone. So I want to build to that level where we're working with, those types of clients, and we're the ones who built that brand. So yeah, I just see us like always not trying to do too many things, but keeping up with the latest trends. And if we see something that's really working out in the market, it's like, cool, how can we bring that, deliver it to our clients to, benefit them, build their brand. So yeah, I just see us always kind of keeping up and just trying to innovate.
Nice. I love that. And what are the easiest ways for people to find out more about your agency, to follow you on social media?
Yeah, so boostmediaagency.com is the website, and on Instagram at Lewis Schenk is probably the best way to connect. I've got a ton of free like media resources and stuff. So if anyone needs anything, just DM me and I'll just shoot them over.
Very cool. And are those also available on your website?
They're not actually, no.
Okay.
We are in the process of redoing the website, which I don't know if you've ever redone a website, but it always takes so much longer than
I'm doing the same thing right now.
So,
I'm like, okay, this is never going to be done.
I've actually like, it's taken that long. I've actually just got to the point where I've just hired someone else to do it now, because it's become a joke. So anyway.
Gosh. Well, and is there anything, because you did give us a quote earlier, but do you have another favorite quote, mantra, words that you live by?
Yeah, one of my favorite ones is don't talk about it, be about it. Like I think a lot of people talk about stuff, but it's like, are they really being about it? Like, yeah, that's a powerful one for me.
Very much so. And on that note, thank you so much, Lewis, for being on the show today. I think
Thank you.
you gave some really insightful examples and thoughts about what PR looks like today and how to achieve the best results. And I love your journey and how you got to PR, because it's something that I love as well. And like you, my journey was a little long before I got here, but now we're here and we're able to help a lot of people. So
That's it.
yeah,
Thank you
awesome.
so much, Annika. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And to our
Amazing.
audience, thanks for coming back for another week of Your Brand Amplified. And I'll be back again next week.